Paul Thomas Anderson just released one of the wildest, most ambitious films of his career, One Battle After Another, a political action thriller that somehow still feels deeply personal. And honestly, it might be the most intense filmmaking Paul Thomas Anderson's ever done, but not for the reasons you think. And after watching it, I've got a lot of thoughts. If you're new here, my name is Los, and I've been a fan of Paul Thomas Anderson for years. I have a physical media collection of movies, and the top row shelf is always reserved for the directors that inspire me the most as a filmmaker. Paul Thomas Anderson is definitely on that shelf. I haven't seen all of his movies, but I plan to watch the last 3 that I haven't watched. The rest of his movies I have in my physical media collection, and when I heard he was releasing a new movie this year, I said, you know what, it's time to revisit Paul's work. I've been a fan of his earlier work for so long, I have to see what new story he's telling. So when I sat down for One Battle After Another, I expected something special. What I got was one of his strangest, funniest, most chaotic films to date.
No, you called me. Do you understand that, you fucking retard? You called me. I need to find my daughter.
So here's the quick rundown, spoiler free. One Battle After Another follows Bob Ferguson, played by Leonardo DiCaprio. He's a former revolutionary who's gone off the grid, raising his daughter Willa. But his past doesn't stay buried, especially when his old nemesis, Colonel Lockjaw, played with absolute chaos energy by Sean Penn, comes back into the picture. This kicks off a story about generational rebellion, political memory, and the battles we inherit, whether we want them or not. What grabbed me the most wasn't the action, it was the themes. This movie is loud, messy, political, and weirdly emotional. It's not about left versus right, it's about how ideologies get corrupted, rewritten, or weaponized. Paul Thomas Anderson isn't pointing fingers at a modern movement, he's showing the cycle, the inheritance of conflict. This whole idea that the battle never ends, that your past can land right back at your front door. It's powerful, and honestly, it might be the most relatable part of the movie. The characters and performances in this movie were all top-notch. With Bob Ferguson, this is not prestige Leo. This is tired, paranoid, impulsive Leo, and it works. He plays Bob like a guy who's been running from ghosts for decades. Willa is not a sidekick. She's not helpless, she's sharp, trained, and carries this burden she never asked for. And then there's Sean Penn. I don't know what planet he came from for this performance, but Colonel Lockjaw is terrifying and ridiculous at the same time. He's like someone who just won't let the past die. It kind of comes off like a cartoonish type of villain, but he plays him so well. It genuinely made me uncomfortable every time he was on screen. There's just something very off about his character, and he plays like a very gross person, but he does it so good, honestly. There's also Benicio del Toro, who plays a small character in this movie, but I actually really enjoyed his character. The fact that everything's going on and he's helping out Bob Ferguson with this whole ordeal while simultaneously taking care of his people in the background with the whole immigration thing. And it's kind of interesting because of today's climate of what's going on in 2025 with the whole immigration and Latino community. This actually intrigued me more on the sensei's story and what he's doing for his community. I kind of wanted to follow that storyline a little bit more than Bob's, but even though it was small and in the background, I kind of did enjoy that part of the movie. When I think of a movie directed by Paul Thomas Anderson, I think of a very professionally well done movie being made. There's just something about his movies. The acting is always top notch. The camera work is very tight and it serves a great purpose. The way he works with cinematographers to tell the story is always top notch in my opinion. And while watching this movie, I can definitely feel Paul Thomas Anderson's direction. The camera is always moving, but not in that shaky modern action style. It's intentional. He wants you to feel like you're chasing the story, or the story is chasing you. Michael Bauman's cinematography is gorgeous. Warm, nostalgic tones when Bob is with Willa, cold, geometric compositions around Colonel Lockjaw. You literally feel the ideological divide. Even with Paul Thomas Anderson's earlier work, he already felt like a very seasoned director, and his work in movies always stood out for me. I just want to point out, towards the end of the movie, there's this like car chase sequence that's filmed on a very long up and down hilly road. I thought Paul Thomas Anderson did a really great job filming this whole sequence. I thought the tension was done really well, and it wasn't like flashy or anything like most car chase sequences are. It was very simple, and it relied on the hills on that long road, not being able to see what's in front of you until you're like over the hill, you know what I mean? So I think he played with that very well, and it was probably one of my favorite parts of the movie. It was just done very creatively with the camera work. I thought even the music in the background was very fitting for the Paul Thomas Anderson movie. Johnny Greenwood, who does the score for this movie, did a really good job. It's minimalist and unsettling. Sometimes it's just a single piano note repeating like a heartbeat that's trying to warn you something's wrong. It just adds enough tension without overpowering the scenes. Now, I'm not saying the movie's perfect. Some people think the movie's too long. It does clock in almost at 3 hours. I think it's 2 hours and 45 minutes. Personally, when I watched it, it didn't feel long, so it's not like the movie felt like it was dragging for me on my first view. Others say the political messaging is a bit heavy-handed, and yeah, if you're expecting a tight, polished blockbuster, this isn't that. But to me, that's the point. Paul Thomas Anderson isn't making clean, easily digestible movies. He's making messy human stories, and this one is very, very human. Honestly, as a longtime Paul Thomas Anderson fan, One Battle After Another surprised me. It feels like a bridge between his character-focused dramas and a more explosive political style of storytelling. It's chaotic, but deliberate. And the more I sit with it, the more I love what it's saying about fighting and choosing when you're finally done fighting. So overall, how does this movie measure up to Paul Thomas Anderson's other movies? I thought it was a really well-made movie, and although it was almost 3 hours long, I actually didn't even feel the running time. Some movies that are that long, if it's not that good of a movie, you start to almost look at the clock and be like, alright, how much time is left until this is done? But I didn't feel that with this movie. I just kept watching the whole thing, interested to see which way it'll go. Overall, I think this is a solid movie to add to his filmography. I still think Boogie Nights is my favorite movie that he ever made. Magnolia, Punch Drunk Love, There Will Be Blood, The Master, they're all really good movies. Some I like a little bit more than others. I've only seen The Master once, and now I've only seen One Battle After Another once, and to me they're kind of like the same. Initial viewing, good movie, but I like the other ones a little bit more. Maybe if I watch it a second time, it'll change, because that's what happened with There Will Be Blood. First time watching it, I thought it was good, but then on my second viewing, I really started breaking down why this was a good movie, and it just reassured me, like, yeah, There Will Be Blood is a pretty good movie. Daniel Day-Lewis is just on a whole nother level.
I drink your milkshake.
But this is a solid movie entry into Paul Thomas Anderson's filmography. I'm not in a hurry to get this one, but at some point, for a good price, I'll probably add this movie to the physical media collection with his other movies as well, because I think it was a solid movie. So I want to hear from you guys. What did you think of One Battle After Another? Did it work for you? Drop your thoughts in the comments below. I'm curious how people read this film. And if you love deep dive into movies like this, hit like and subscribe and ring the bell so you don't miss the next one.